Evil can never be rehabilitated.
Well, it is now up to a judge to decide the fate of a Port St. Lucie man who killed his parents with a hammer back in 2011, then threw a party with their bodies still inside the home.
This is the case of Jeremiah King, a 16-year-old who was involved in the murder of an Albuquerque man, Stephen Gurecki, in his driveway in 2015. King and 5 friends got high and engaged in unlawful activities, including breaking into cars and homes. When Stephen Gurecki confronted them in his garage, King pulled the trigger, taking Gurecki's life. The true shock lies not in the crime itself, but in King's jaw-dropping behavior during the court process. King and his group of friends were seen smiling, showing no remorse for their actions. In court, King's mother told the judge that her son is a good and respectful kid who made a mistake.
Jeremiah is a good moral character. I realize it might be hard to believe that, given the circumstances, but it's true nevertheless.
However, the prosecutor, Larissa Calloway, pointed out King's history of unruly behavior, including unsupervised alcohol and drug use. Friends and family of the victim also expressed their grief and anger over the senseless act, emphasizing the irreplaceable loss they had endured and its devastating impact on their lives.
You have no idea how much, Jeremiah, you took from so many people.
You took a life. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Despite his mother's plea for leniency, Jeremiah King was sentenced to spend the next 25 years behind bars. Gurecki's widow, Vinnie, had hoped for a life sentence.
I'll never have him back, but that's okay.
King's plea deal led to the 25-year sentence with the possibility of release by age 40 if he showed good behavior. The judge gave King the harshest punishment allowed by the plea agreement. The judge pointed out that even though King apologized to the victim's family in court, it didn't seem like he truly regretted his actions.
I can't do much but say sorry. I could prove it by doing good while I'm in prison.
As for the 5 other teens who were part of the chaotic night, they admitted to less severe offenses. They are now waiting for their sentences.
And evil can never be rehabilitated.
However, Jeremiah King wasn't the first person to act uninterested in court. There's the case of Philip Chisholm. On October 22, 2013, a horrifying incident unfolded involving 14-year-old Philip Chisholm, a 9th grader, and his 24-year-old school math teacher, Colleen Ritzer. Colleen Ritzer was known for her dedication to her students, and on that day, she asked Chisholm to stay after school for additional lessons. However, this act of kindness took a chilling turn. Some teenagers do stupid things like skipping classes, smoking weed, or stealing candy, but not Chisholm. Chisholm came to school prepared with a knife, a change of clothes, and gloves. He followed Colleen into a restroom where he took her life. His brutality didn't stop there. Chisholm robbed, assaulted, and abused her. Afterwards, he disposed of her lifeless body by placing it in a garbage bin and dragging it behind the school. However shocking Chisholm's crimes were, wait till you see how he handled himself in court. In an attempt to cover up his crimes, Chisholm went into town and used Colleen's credit card to buy a movie ticket. However, the police tracked him down and arrested him the next morning, still with Colleen's blood on his hands. Chisholm was charged with multiple charges, including murder, aggravated and armed robbery. Throughout the court proceedings, he displayed a shocking lack of remorse, even as the victim's parents read their impact statement.
It's pure evil, and evil can never be rehabilitated.
He maintained the same lack of remorse when the victim's siblings read their impact statements.
Put this animal behind bars for the maximum possible sentence.
Chisholm's attorneys claimed he was mentally unstable, but the judge disagreed.
The court will impose the mandatory life sentence for the murder of Colleen Ritzer and set a parole eligibility date of 25 years. This court will impose a concurrent sentence of 40 years to 40 years and 1 day for the of Colleen Ritzer and a concurrent sentence of 40 years to 40 years and 1 day for the armed robbery.
In February 2016, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 25 years. However, while some may attribute Philip Chisholm's reaction to mental illness, it pales in comparison to the unfathomable behavior of Aiden Fucci, a 16-year-old Floridian who was charged with the first-degree murder of his classmate, Tristan Bailey, On a sunny day in 2021, Fucci, who was 14 at the time, decided to engage in some rather unconventional outdoor activities. He took a stab at stabbing Tristan over 100 times in the woods of St. Johns County, Florida. If you thought Fucci's crimes were reprehensible, brace yourself for his shocking conduct after he was arrested.
We're having fun in a cop car.
Yep. Tristan.
What's up, guys?
During the trial, Tristan Bailey was described as an energetic and happy child, and her untimely death has caused immeasurable pain to her family and friends. The judge recognized that no sentence could truly bring closure to such a tragedy and conveyed his sympathy to the grieving family.
Some of you testified to the fact that when you learned of her death, part of you died as well. What I would suggest is that you fill that void with her spirit and her life that certainly lives on through each and every one of you.
Eventually, Fucci was sentenced to life in prison. Although he has a right to appeal, even the judge couldn't hide his skepticism about Fucci's potential for rehabilitation. After all, the murder can't exactly be called a mistake. The stabbing had no apparent motive and was not driven by greed, revenge, or any other typical reasons for violent crimes. The judge referred to it as an extraordinary and shocking case in St. Johns County.
This court finds that this was not an immature or an impetuous type of crime. It makes it unique. It makes it extraordinary.
Fucci stood emotionless as the judge read the sentence and showed no remorse.
I sentence you to life in prison. 114 stab wounds, 49 defensive wounds, 35 wounds to the head and neck, 29 to the back and shoulder, and 6 fatal wounds. The 49 defensive wounds indicate Tristan Bailey was conscious, that she was aware, and that she was doing everything she could to fend off this attack. She suffered a painful, horrifying death from someone that she trusted.
He is now serving his sentence in prison.
Well, it is now up to a judge to decide the fate of a Port St. Lucie man who killed his parents with a hammer back in 2011, then threw a party with their bodies still inside the home.
However, Aiden Fucci isn't alone in his courtroom actions. Let's not forget the infamous incident involving Tyler Hadley, who decided to take his family matters into his own hands, quite literally. On July 16, 2011, in Port St. Lucie, Florida, 17-year-old Tyler Hadley brutally attacked his parents, Blake Hadley and Mary Jo Hadley, with a hammer while they were at home, leading to their untimely deaths. What makes this horrifying incident even more disturbing is the premeditation behind it. Tyler had apparently planned these murders in advance, and shockingly, he'd invited friends over for a party at his house that evening. Intending to celebrate after committing this unimaginable act, he took ecstasy before carrying out the murder. He attacked his mother first while she was on her computer, and then his father, who came to help her. He hid their bodies in the bedroom and cleaned up the mess. He didn't seem to care about what he had done and used his parents' credit cards to pay for the party. He even told some of his friends about the murders, and one of them, Michael Mandel, saw the bodies but didn't call the cops right away. Instead, he hung out with Tyler and took a selfie with him before finally reporting him.
After he told me, I didn't believe him because he's been my best friend forever. I would never suspect anything like this. And I was looking around. He told me if I look at it enough, I can see signs. I looked on the floor, I could see signs of blood. And that's when I went around back and looked in his parents' bedroom.
Tyler had a history of drug use, crime, and behavior problems. His parents, in a commendable display of parental love, tried to help him by sending him to rehab. Clearly, Tyler wasn't a fan of this plan, which was why he killed them. Just when you thought Tyler couldn't sink any lower, his behavior in the courtroom will leave you stunned. Tyler was emotionless and defiant in court. Although he was not handed the death penalty because he was a minor, he still got life in prison without parole.
It is hereby the judgment and sentence of the court that as to both counts 1 and 2, the defendant be sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
However, his sentence was changed in 2016 because of a new law for juvenile murderers. Before he was given a new sentence, Tyler appeared remorseful and even apologized for his crime.
I apologize and make amends for the horrible acts I've done, I committed.
But his family members quashed any hopes of him getting a lesser sentence when they pleaded with the judge to hand him the maximum sentence.
Get the maximum penalty possible, which I understand is life in prison without parole.
In 2018, he got life in prison again, even though he tried apologizing. Tyler Hadley is now serving his life sentence at the Okeechobee Correctional Institution. However, while this action could be dismissed as an effect of drugs, the same can't be said for the case of Martise Fuller. At 15, Fuller was charged with murder after he broke into his ex-girlfriend's house in Kenosha County, Wisconsin, armed with a handgun. Inside, he fatally shot his ex-girlfriend in her bedroom as she peacefully listened to music. Her mother, alerted by the gunshots, bravely confronted Fuller, and he shot her too. Luckily, she survived. While the crimes committed by Fuller were abhorrent, his courtroom conduct will leave you speechless. Throughout the trial, Fuller claimed he was innocent of the charges and displayed little emotion. Although Fuller pleaded not guilty, the jury did not agree. He was found guilty on 3 counts, including first-degree intentional homicide.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
At his sentencing, Fuller remembered that he was human and displayed some emotion in the courtroom. Perhaps it's the gravity of his situation finally dawning on him. He goes on to deliver a statement through his attorney, insisting that he's innocent, but expressing apologies to the family for the agony they've endured and the tragic loss of his ex-girlfriend, Kaylee.
Despite the hatred that is against me, I still am sorry. But I have to continue to stand innocent because I am.
The judge, however, remained unconvinced of Fuller's potential for rehabilitation.
I don't have any ability to trust that you will never commit these acts. You are a very dangerous and a damaged human being.
Consequently, Fuller was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Despite the severity of his punishment, Fuller appeared largely unaffected by the weight of his actions. If you thought these reactions were shocking, you'd be amazed at this video of people who killed their own family, reacting to death or life sentences.